We had two or three people extra coming in. Very welcome, everybody. And welcome to this indeed second Rombit webinar focused on warehousing and warehousing technology from data to action. Data is all around us. There is an abundance of software and hardware systems, but still today, anno 2024, it's difficult to find and especially create business value out of that data without having to run huge IT projects or huge change management projects. That is exactly the topic of today. First, we will zoom out a little bit and listen to Mr. Kenneth Olugu. He's a senior manager at PwC. Hi, Kenneth, welcome. And he will give you an overview of all kinds of applications around data management, and value creation in warehousing. We will see cost control, we will see customer service, but especially we'll also see a safety focus. So without further ado, Kenneth, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Thank you, Evert. So I'll quickly take over the screen and then I will hop on the presentation. So to very briefly introduce myself and the team that I'm working for. So as Evert already mentioned, I'm working for PwC and I'm located in the delivery department. So we're mainly focused on logistics and distribution, and we're providing consultancy services to a large amount of companies. Within PwC, we're also known as the Global Center of Excellence. So a lot of projects that we're executing are outside of Belgium. It's roughly a 50-50 mix. And type of projects that we're doing, and I'm not going to go into the details here, but we provide advice for investment decisions. We do cost to serve analysis. We work to find the optimal footprint for distribution, both as for manufacturing services. Next to that, we're also involved in transportation management and control tower. But for today, our focus is mainly on warehouse management. So within warehouse management, we're providing warehouse assessments. We're conducting warehouse design exercises, and we're also providing automation advisory to a large amount of clients across the globe. So the reason for this is, of course, like lots of things are happening around us, and all of those things, they don't only have implications on the supply chain in general, but also have implications to the warehouse. So what you see here on the left hand side are just few snippets. So you have the Suez Canal blockade, as everybody knows. You have also the issues of companies not finding the right amount of labor, or they're seeing a lot of strikes happening. All of those have implications on supply chain, as mentioned, but also on the warehouse. And therefore, it's actually very important from a warehousing perspective to be resilient. So you basically want to have redundancy of volume in your network, but you're also not happy anymore with having all your volume located in Asia, or like, let's say, far away from your customer base. So lots of companies are looking at nearshoring, also looking at, like, let's say, having satellites very close to the city, close to their customer base. And next to that, I think all the issues that you saw on the previous slides, they also bring the question on, okay, how can we be more agile? So I think postponement strategy is a good example here. So you don't want to personalize your items at the first leg of your chain, but you want to, let's say, postpone it as much as possible. And, like, let's say, do the personalized ticketing, labeling, and packaging at, like, let's say, the final leg at the satellite warehouse, for example, just in order to be very flexible and to answer on changes within the overall environment as soon as possible. I think next to that, of course, visibility and ESG as key components. Like when developing a new warehouse, you're thinking about solar panels, making sure that your CO2 footprint is as low as possible. But then, of course, also operational efficiency, and that's going to be focus of today. So because of the issues that you saw on the previous slides related with, like, finding labor, having strikes, and so on, there are more and more questions to increase the level of automation, to think about robotization, and to make the right decision there. So going for full-blown automation is not always the right answer, but the exercise need to be executed in order to make sure that you have the right level available within your warehouse or within your overall network. So, and that brings us to the next. So warehousing, I think it's a component of your supply chain, but it's also a component that adds additional costs. So therefore, it's very important that your warehouse adds value. So make sure that you provide the right service to your customers, bring products in time, and so on. And then hence also the question related with automation, robotization. And I think that brings us to the following question. So what are strategic triggers for companies to look into their footprint, to think about automation, and to make changes in their network? And that's what you can find on the next slide. So I think this slide is a good introduction before going more into the details. On the left-hand side, you see a long list of issues, of topics that come up before a company really launches um, the request on revisiting their warehouse and thinking about automation, uh, thinking about bringing flexibility in, and so on. So questions like, of course, optimization of costs, but then also really the customer focus. So improving your efficiency, becoming more flexible and agile in order to make sure that you provide the right service level to your customers. Next to that, other triggers are a little bit more related with topics such as, are we happy with our current 3PL services? Are we going to do a make or buy, and so on? And on top of that, you also have, like, let's say, the labor question that I also brought up earlier on. So I think this is a long list, and that brings us also to the case that I want to present in the next 10 minutes. It's a project that we've done in Canada for the largest alcoholic beverage distributor located there. So basically, they saw a big move from, like, let's say, pallet pick operations to more bottle pick and case pick operations, because the shift to e-commerce was happening. And next to that, they also knew that the network or the warehouses that they were currently having were performing below par. And that's then also the reason that they reached out to us. And what we did there, and that those are, like, let's say the basic flow for a question like that. We followed a 4-step approach, and this 4-step approach will give you a little bit of an indication on, okay, what are the things that we're looking when we're thinking about automation, when we're thinking optimizing of the current operations. And it's always, like, let's say, following those 4 steps, and I will mainly focus on the first 3. So step number 1, that's a very basic one, and that's getting a clear overview of what's the company doing to date. So step number 1 is the qualitative analysis. So for this particular example, we went through all the DCs that they had within the market. So it was a total of 7 DCs, and based on that, we could already see that there were quite a lot of bottlenecks in their footprint. I think they had DCs that originated from 1940. One of their DCs was originally a war bunker and grew to, like, let's say, part of their overall network. So that was step number 1, like identifying pain points, looking into the elements where we saw the bottlenecks. And together with that, we also looked into data components. So I think from a data perspective, we basically mapped actually the flow end to end from inbound to outbound, leveraging transactional data. So my master data around products, around volumes, around customers, and so on, but then also getting a clear overview of their inventory levels, inventory turns, picking performance. And that basically gave us a good overview, those 2 components combined, so both qualitative and quantitative, to really deep dive in the pain points of the organization. And that helped us to bring us into step 2. So in step 2, we looked into multiple angles. So angle number 1 was optimizing their footprint, so making sure that the right products were situated in the right location. Like, some DCs were better in handling bottle pick, better handling case pick. So therefore, some changes in flow happened. But then the second and the third component are maybe more interesting. So the second component, we leverage the current state analysis looking into, okay, what are now the bottlenecks? And we came up with solutions for those bottlenecks, solutions more from a manual perspective. That was step two, like, yeah, very simple one, adding more people, changing, like, let's say, the structure that they were working to date. And then the third component was then more looking into the overall automation. So with automation, think there are multiple terminologies around automation. So what kind of technologies could be used into their desire to get the desired level of automation? And therefore, I think there is no one size fits all. So in the example of the company that we were working for, we looked into, okay, what kind of technology, what kind of data are you currently leveraging? What is the maturity of your organization? Like, is there possibility to change? Like, are there retraining possibilities and so on? Third one was stability versus flexibility. So yeah, you don't want to put automation into a facility where the demand in month number one is 0, demand number 2 is 1 million, and the demand in month number 3 is 0. I think in order to get automation within your DC, you need to have some level of stability. Of course, there are seasonality factors, like, for example, here in the alcohol sector, I think, yeah, you have a huge jump in the holiday, in the summer period, where companies are building stock prior to that. So there is always some flexibility, but it's important to also have a very high level of stability to enter automation. Plus, then element number 4 is then also the desired payback. So you can go for the fully fledged and say, like, you can automate whatever possible, but yeah, you need to design a warehouse. Like, you don't want to drive on a highway with 200 300 miles an hour and say, like, this is what we need. Like, there is a limit. It's only 80 miles per hour, 70 miles per hour. So therefore, you just need to make sure that whatever you're proposing has the right payback and also the right return on investment. So that's basically what we're looking at for this particular example. And it was mainly looking into functional automation and mechanized automation. So you also have systematic automation, and as Evert already highlighted in the beginning of the call, like changing your WMS and so on, like that's a very big exercise that you need to do. We were more looking into, okay, how can we find quick wins, medium term wins, and therefore we looked into functional automation that could be added. So pick to light solutions, voice picking, RFID, smaller steps, but also looking into the mechanized automation, but yeah, not the full on, like with an automated storage retrieval system, but more looking, okay, can we potentially introduce automated palletization, depalletization? What's going to be the implication on that? So that's more or less the degree of automation complexity that we were looking at. We're not looking at end-to-end automation, but in parallel, it was very important, to connect with all the right providers. So below you see a list of providers. We didn't connect with all of them during this exercise, but we made sure to bring some solutions to the client and to get conversations with those vendors going. So moving back, so that basically brought us to this stage. We managed the current footprint, and we were able to alleviate some capacity and to decrease bottlenecks. But what we saw was that their network was not fit for growth. So then we really needed to ask the next question: is there a need to develop a new DC in the near future? The answer was yes. So basically what we did there, and that's what you also see in the right bottom of the slide, we developed an AutoCAD design and a Revit 3D of their future facility, but we also made sure that the facility answers all the questions that they were having. So it was important to have flexibility for expansion. The layout was also an important one, so reducing walking time, making sure that the building shape was in mind, the one that they had in mind. Like, building shape is not a super important one, it's more personal preference. But that were critical components. Possibility to have the right level of safety, the right environment for the workers, and so on, very important ones. But another one was also the right level of automation. So that brings us back to that question. And for this one, and I think this is a good visual to show, like, what is the right moment to think about automation, and you need to have, and that's what you see on the bottom, a critical miles in terms of throughput. Like in the beginning, it's always more cost effective to go manual, but you need to find the point where you basically see that automation outperforms the manual exercise, not only from a performance point of view, but also from a cost point of view. And you can also see the limitations. You have more limitations, of course, with manual than automated. I think for this exercise it was pretty clear. The throughput that we would throw into the new facility was rather high, so therefore we were going more into an automated solution. And on top of that, I'm not going to go into the details here because I'm conscious of time, but we also needed to make decisions on, okay, what is the type of storage mode that we want to have, what is the type of picking that we want to have, and that was then all based on, okay, volume again, like storage density, but then also related with order complexity, like are we going to do just pallet picks, or is it going to be a very discrete picking that need to happen with a lot of, like, let's say, bottle picks, case picks, and so on. So the next visual is basically from a bird's eye view what we've designed in the AutoCAD. So we went actually for a full-on automated solution due to the fact that there was enough throughput in the facility, also due to the fact of the product type. So not all the product types fit into this solution, but we could find at least 90 to 95% of the products who could make use of this end-to-end solution. And this end-to-end solution looked into automation from an inbound perspective with installing automated depalletizers. But from a storage point of view, we worked together with some of the providers that you saw on one of the previous slides to design the high bay, to design a tray warehouse. And because the complexity of their operations with bottle pick and case pick, there were also some automated case picking components included, and even goods to person, which was then moved to like the automated loading area. So what we basically did for the client here was end-to-end design from a conceptual point of view to get a clear indication on, okay, what is going to be the required footprint of this new facility, what is more or less a Class D budget in order to build something like this, and that helped them basically to start the overall journey. And the overall journey is, of course, pretty long. So I think today I really went into the details from a more strategical, tactical level. But then the next phases, we're talking about a multi-year, 3-4 year project where you move from the high level design into the detailed design, and then really supporting them in the construction phase, and then the real installation, commissioning, and so on. So those are the next steps. But in order to get there, it's very critical to do step number 1, to analyze the current footprint as highlighted, and also look into, okay, how will that facility look like, because those decisions are critical in order to know for what kind of plot of land we're looking for, what's the volume that we're looking for, and also in order to make clear and right calculations on how many MHE materials do you need, how many FTEs, and so on. So that's basically also what you see here on this visual. So in those data workflow, with the input that we had, we were able to do those MHE FTE estimates, to design the yard, to make sure that the high bay was built the right way, and get a clear overview of the inventory needed and the throughput needed. So that's basically the journey that we followed, and provides a good overview, like, let's say, on making strategical, tactical decisions on the warehouse or the warehouse of the future that you want to build. So I hope that I just stayed within time. I think we will do the Q&A after the session of Jo. But thanks for listening, and waiting for questions later on. Thank you.
Wonderful, Kenneth. That was perfect. And it was also very insightful to especially see where the basically click point is between a manual or manually operated warehouse and then the automation being kicking in. I think that's also a little bit the topic of our next presentation. I'd like to welcome Jo Verheijen to this webinar. Hello, Jo, and very welcome.
Hi.
He's a self-declared SHEQ challenger, so that's SHEQ challenger at Vision Vertex. He is an HSE expert, so that's health, safety, and environment control. He's also a manager at a customer of Rombit, a safety manager called Avery Dennison. So he has a wide range of experiences and a wide range of basically lessons learned around specifically safety in those logistics operations that Kenneth was just addressing, because Kenneth also mentioned that going for full-blown automation isn't really something for all customers due to demand issues, due to different customers being serviced in similar warehouses, for instance, and we see that in a lot of our 3PL customers. So today we still have a lot of people running around in those warehouses, and that will stay that way for years to come as well. So we need to make sure that environments are safe and efficient, and I think that is exactly the topic of Jo's presentation today. Jo, the floor is yours.
Thanks for that very tremendous introduction, Evert. And Kenneth, thanks for putting safety as a core value in your presentation as well. Okay, I'm going to discuss the enhancing of internal safety in the logistics operation. Okay, and we do this for our main stakeholders. Of course, the leadership, the leadership team who wants to spread their logistical strategy and operational excellence strategy throughout the organization. But of course, we also do this for the drivers of all mobile utilities at site. Even if it's automated or not, there are people operating these utilities. We also do this for safety professionals, this training, to learn from each other. And also we need to involve project coordinators and engineers, because project coordinators and engineers are most of the time the executors of setting things in place, setting utilities in place, making processes throughout the organization to make the logistical flow ongoing. Okay, and also this training is for the training coordinators, how to deal with logistics and how to train the process, and giving expectations of people that are working in logistic areas. What do we expect from them? They need to be trained, and training coordinators can be involved as well. The purpose of it all is manage internal traffic, avoid collision, and create a site with as less as interaction possible between mobile utilities and the employee or parts in your facility. Basically, avoid damage to people and damage to utilities, and also avoid some stunt driving with internal logistical utilities or mobile utilities. What are risk creating influences during that operation? Of course, speed and mass. And the combination of the speed and the mass of mobile utilities that you use determines the severeness of incidents and the aftermath of impact with people or with the employees. Okay. The environment, we put mobile utilities in a setting that is created by the company. Kenneth gave a good impression on how to set things in place. And when you have the utilities and you have the place to drive those utilities, you have the participants on the internal traffic, both the drivers and the pedestrians. And we need to we already took some measures in the past, but sometimes in a new setting, the measures of the past, of the action of the past, are against us, and we need to try to get control of the new situation and manage the risks in the new situation. To manage the risk, you need to master the risk by acknowledge the risk, see the risk. For instance, what are the things that we gonna transport? Okay, and is there a possibility that it shoves off the pallet and stuff, and could cause damage to the truck itself or the mobile utility itself, to the driver or to pedestrians in the surroundings? Is our environment, is our a surface to drive, is that in good condition? Or is there any slippy surface or some difference in level? Could also be a possibility. The load we want to carry with our mobile utilities, is it too heavy that things getting broken? Okay, also a risk to take in mind. What are the side activities around the mobile utilities? Is there the possibility that you can run over a person or stuff? Okay, very severe risks to keep in mind. Okay, bumping against some poles. In this case, I don't need to tell you what can happen if you drive into it like that with your forklift. Yeah, you hit the gate on top, and then you need to be lucky if the forklift will tilt over or not. Okay, all risk to take in place. Sometimes you don't even see the person walking in front of you, and you can just run over. Okay, luckily this picture is put in scene and was not a real incident. Okay, to master all those risks, you need an action plan to bring your process of internal traffic to a higher level. Okay, and that you need to do that in 5 steps. Step number 1 is a policy. Bring a policy in place to gain your goal. Okay, and what was the goal? Increase the possible interactions between mobile utilities and people, pedestrians, or other facilities in your surroundings. Okay, when you have a policy with some keynotes or some different goals to fulfill those purpose, you need to see in the design step of your internal traffic process, how can my design, my setup in my factory or organization already could accomplish some of that goals. Okay, and then if your setting is okay for you, then you can put assets, mobile utilities in that facility in line with the design again. Okay, then you have the place, you have the assets, then you need to people to operate the assets and to get your logistics ongoing. Okay, we will take more information on that later on. Okay, and then follow up, evaluate your process time and time again, and grow simultaneously with supply chain demands that sometimes also change, and the best available techniques, not exceeding excessive costs. Okay, policy must be a procedure with the minimal requirements to make internal traffic safe. That's the main goal. Okay, it also needs to ensure compliance with the legal prescriptions. Okay, on top of that, maybe your corporate organization has some local supplementary requirements that you need to include in that policy. Okay, the policy is also an output of risk assessment that also needs to be in place before all of that. Okay, and the policy describes some technical requirements on used utilities and behavior. Also, educational topics for all participants on the internal traffic, both from driver side as of pedestrian side, that are both confronted with internal traffic movement. Okay. The risk assessment is very simple. You need to have a map, okay, of your facility, and on that map you will just draw the driving lines of different kind of mobile utilities. Your forklifts, your pallet stackers, your trucks, your MUPs, mobile elevated work platforms. Just draw on your map all those driving paths. And when there is interaction or the driving paths cross each other, there you have an interaction and you need to calculate the risk on that. And then you are also getting data to use afterwards to draw other things on your map, where to put skid marks on pedestrian paths, where we need extra light, where we need to have safety signage and stuff. Okay, all part of the risk assessment to make the design step more easier. Okay, the design step of internal traffic, the best situation is if you can start from scratch. Okay, that will be the best. Okay, if you are on the drawing table with the project engineers, with the employer itself, but most of the time you need to adapt the design in function of your material flow, type of material to be transported, and types of utilities you use. Okay, in that design step, go for a sustainable design that lasts for a time or is ready for use in a future state of the supply chain process. Not that we're already in a process or in a world where drones take over logistics, no, but think a little bit further. Okay. Also, think practical. In this both cases, I think the Kalmar truck isn't the best truck to use in this kind of surroundings. So adapt your assets in line with your facility design. You've seen on the map that there were some measures to be taken, and then you bring them in practice. Okay, you can get some safety signage in place, some light, some physical barriers and stuff, just to align your transport and your logistics in line with your safest approach. When you need to populate your facility, you need to have your people trained. Okay, getting your people trained is build a parkour in your facility and let people train in using mobile equipment. Okay, the regulator asks us to have evidence of training. Okay, but you need to fulfill some stages, like for instance a described training program on how training has to be done, assigned persons to give training with sufficient knowledge and skills. Of course, you need to have the training material. What are you going to train? And there needs to be a traceable evaluation process, how you have decided that a person is capable of driving a mobile utility in your facility. Adopt the training also in your skill matrix with frequency of retraining, and have a periodic review and audit on your training process. Auditing is also having checklists in place. We make our checklists digital, okay, also for forklifts and for pallet stackers. It gives us a good output on where to change or where our process isn't running very good, and we create also knowledge on what we need to do better. For instance, our checklists, they look for, are there any damages to our trucks? Luckily not that severe as the picture on the right. Do the people use their checklists, the pre-start checklists, good or not? Is the sound of the horn still good? Is the lightning of the forklift still good? Is the seat belt still working good? All things you can audit by digital checklists. Okay, going digital is also make the paper form of the pre-start checklist also digital. Okay, luckily we found a solution to make the pre-start check digital, and also then we can follow up with dashboard view which drivers don't accurately perform their pre-start checks. Okay, that's a best available technique now, the digital pre-start check. You have also other best available techniques. Technology is on our side, so we have solutions that observe people in our surroundings and can interact with our logic in our truck to stop the truck if a person is recognized in the danger zone. Okay, luckily we have that new kind of technology. There's also technology where bracelets or sensors are observed or recognized by our truck, and our truck does give an alarm or stop when persons are too near on the truck. Okay, you also have detectors that can observe reflective material and stop if necessary. Okay. Kenneth told us modern warehouses have huge storage rack equipments. Okay, and by sight you don't see what is up there, what's happening up there. also you have a new available technique, just a camera in your forks to see on top level what you are doing with your pallet and stuff and drive it safely in. Okay. Then I thank you for your time, and I leave it up to the next speaker.
Well, thank you, Jo, for staying right within time, and thank you for giving us all these very interesting examples. I think they're very valuable to a lot of people in this call. So thanks again. You were, in fact, the last and second speaker, so that means that we're now right on time, and we have still quite a few minutes to manage those questions there. And I see that there's one question already in the chat. I'll just take them chronologically. This is Jan. I believe this is a question for Kenneth. Yes, when it comes to strategic warehouse decisions, what are the key factors to consider when deciding on the location and the design of future-proof distribution centers? Kenneth, can you give us a few factors there in terms of location? Where should I build and how should I build it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, with regards to location, I think the two key components are costs and customer service or service level that you want to provide. So some of the factors that play an important role is proximity to the markets and the customer base and proximity to the suppliers, because both of them will provide then the answer to, okay, how can we reduce our cost as much as possible with maintaining the right level of service? Other items that you need to look into with regards to location is, of course, access to transportation networks. So you need to be sure that you're close to the highways or to ports. I think availability of labor is also a very important one. As already highlighted before, like finding labor is quite hard, and there are specific regions where it's easier or harder. So that's definitely something that you need to take into consideration. And then from a design perspective, I think those are a little bit also connected with the design principles that I mentioned. So if you look at your future-proof distribution center, scalability is a very important one. So making sure that there is enough room to expand the warehouse. Next to that also, yeah, the overall layout and the flow. And then, yeah, back to Jo, I think, yeah, safety and ergonomics are also important elements to consider in order to get that right level of operational efficiency. And then from a cost perspective, it's just going to be a matter of making a cost benefit analysis. Like if you want to have the best of everything, then you will of course also have cost implications. So it's just making sure that you make the right trade-off and also really look into the total cost of ownership. So long-term view of maintenance costs, utilities, but then also technology investments, thinking about the right level of payback, return of investment you want to have. So I think that basically summarizes my view on the question of Jan.
Thank you, Kenneth. And then we go ahead. There's another question from Jan there. Thank you, Jan.
Yeah.
How do you keep or how do you make sure your people perform pre-checks correctly? I can imagine some drivers to go over it rather quickly and less accurately than others. Do you keep track of the time when people are performing those pre-checks? Jo, this is a question for you.
Yeah, that's one of me, and luckily I do this work half of my life, so I've seen it all. And I start bullying my colleagues. Then how do I do it? I have the pre-start check in a digital way, and then I switch the order of questions in the digital checklist. Okay, so yeah, it's not like you can say okay. No, I change the order of the questions, and sometimes I ask the question in a positive way or in a negative way. There are no damages on the forklift. Yes. There are damages on the forklift. No. Okay, so people really need to pay attention on the question. Otherwise, there will be an alarm that tells us, hey, there's something wrong with the truck. Okay, so that's how we try to capture that kind of activity that Jan is telling us about. Okay.
Thank you, Jo. That really makes sense. And Rombit, since a few weeks, also has a product in this respect for those pre-checks, because we saw in the market and from those testimonials from amongst other you, Jo, that this is a big issue. This
And
is
we thank
compliance
Rombit
101.
to listen.
Yeah.
We thank Rombit to listen to our voice of the customer. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Jo. That's the
Yeah.
best compliment of today. We'll close it off now. No. Anyway, we have a very interesting question from Omid also. Could you please explain more about the front camera part of the safety matter, Jo?
Okay. Yeah. It's a camera. Like I told you, with your eyes, you can't see everything up that height. It's a camera mounted in the surroundings of your forks. Okay, and it gives you a perfect look related on the pallet you want to put in, and you can see where the pallet is positioned against the beam of a storage rack equipment, a beam or the ladder of the storage rack equipment. So you have full sight, like your rear view camera in your car. You have full sight on, can I use this storage place or not, and can my load or my pallet fit in well. Okay, that's the purpose of that front camera. I hope that's a answer on Omid's question.
That makes sense, and I'm sure, Jo, with your permission, we can share a few of those slides afterwards as well,
Of course.
and make a few adjustments there. Seaman has another question. Also, I think for you, Jo, what are the most
Yeah.
significant costs you could prevent by implementing such a pre-check?
Okay. If you implement pre-start checks, you will more actively see some damages to your equipment. Okay, before it's getting worse, and the technical intervention will cost more money than when you would see it before. Okay, and of course, yeah, if your blue spot or your horn doesn't work well, people will not notice your forklift up front when it's coming, and then you don't have the large, it isn't a cost but consequence of a possible fatality or severe accident. Okay, yeah, so that's the main purpose of pre-start checks. Avoid severe incidents by checking if all your safety requirements and safety stuff on your mobile utilities are working well, and also prevent the cost of your technical intervention before the technical malfunctioning is getting out of hand.
Yes, I think predictive or preventive maintenance is very important here, and indeed, prevention always costs less than actually a vehicle that is in repair for indefinite amount of time. Yeah,
indeed.
We see that. I think we have time for one more question, maybe two. I see that someone is typing, so we're very interested in seeing what's going on there. In the meantime, maybe I have one more question, because we have been talking about automation and fully automated warehouses on the one hand, and then we see a load of areas, warehouses and yards, where there's a lot of manual labor, workers still being involved. What we also see with a range of customers, both here in Europe and in North America, is hybrid kinds of warehouses, where we see small units, robot units, automated guided vehicles working alongside those workers in forklifts. How do you see this in terms of safety And are there specific safety risks there and specific safety procedures to follow?
I've discussed that people can carry some kind of badge or sensor with them, that the forklift can observe them or can recognize them. But you can also put or build in such kind of sensor just in your AGV, or auto-guided vehicle. Yeah, that's a possibility. Yeah. And of course, teach your people to not rely on technical solutions. Don't learn them from, the AGV has a sensor and a scanner. It will never hit you. No, there are always blind spots and some things that you would never imagine that can occur. So people always need to be aware of it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. So again, presence detection is a very good way of last second prevention, I think. Then we have time for one more question. Omid, thank you for posting one more. How to show return on investment to the warehouse manager based on the collected data. Sometimes you have prevented the accident from happening, but you are not aware of it. How to show the performance of a safety system. I think this is a very, very important question around, okay, we don't have accidents, so we don't have any costs, but what is the actual cost of not preventing something?
We're focusing mainly on the personal damage, but safety, health, environment, and equality is also prevent damage to the goods, to the facility, and to the environment. Okay, so besides the recordable injury rate and stuff, you also need to see the complaints of millions product units produced, for instance. Okay, so you from SHEQ point of view, you need to have statistics on the damage to people, but also the damage to property and the damage to product. Okay, yeah, and then you can also show the return on investment on the negative, hopefully the negative trend line on damage caused to your products and your facility. For instance, we had 30,000 euros less technical interventions on our storage rack equipments year after year. Yeah, so that was proven that we didn't have that negative cash to technical intervention on our warehouse equipment. 30,000 euros a year less.
Wow, that really, I think, answers the question as well. I think, in short, preventing accidents from happening definitely has a return on investment. We at Rombit basically also have a template for that, and we can very much assist you in this, Omid, and other attendees. It's called expected monetary value of safety process and safety technology. So we can help you with that. But I think what Jo mentioned is much more important, is that driving safely pretty much is also avoiding damages to product, to infrastructure, and to the trucks themselves. And at the end of the day, that costs a lot more than a preventive measure in terms of procedure and or technology. Okay, I think we are all set. I see that someone is typing. Maybe we still have time for one more question, but I don't think something is going to appear. Anyway, I would like to thank you very much, all the attendees today, for sticking around for these two wonderful and very interesting presentations. I would like to thank Kenneth and Jo for taking the time to inspire us around this topic, from data to action, especially around those safety topics. Thank you again, Kenneth and Jo, and hope to see you soon.